Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first video that I've ever posted on my channel. Now, for those of you who are wondering, I'm going to be specializing in analysis and retrospective content over my favorite games. If there's a game you'd like me to cover at some point in the future, please leave a comment. If it's one that I'm interested in, then I'll consider doing it. But I'm here today for a different reason. I was in the middle of recording my intended first YouTube video, a deep dive analysis on the Origami King, which is not only my favorite Paper Mario game, but my favorite Mario game and by extension my favorite game in general. But as I was working on the script for that video, the remake of the Thousand Year Door dropped out of completely nowhere. I did not see this coming. I know the fandom has been begging Nintendo for a remake of the Thousand Year Door for longer than I can remember, and it just appeared spontaneously in a Nintendo Direct out of nowhere. So I decided after seeing the video once, to gather my thoughts and think about it, because I don't do reactionary things on this channel so much as I do analysis content. So I decided I was going to see it once, gather my thoughts, and then return for an analysis video where I break down some of my key thoughts throughout. So if you're interested in such analysis content and of my bigger projects that I'm going to make in the future, as well as some tier lists if I find myself in the mood, then please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you've got something interesting to say or suggest. I would really appreciate the support, and I'm trying to get this channel to grow, so anything at all is a huge help. But with out of the way, I want to get my thoughts down, so let's start. So you'll notice here something that I'm going to bring up many more times throughout this, and that's the new lighting engine. I didn't notice it on my first watch through at this particular point, but there's a noticeable sheen on the power star at the center of the introductory book. And I didn't think much of it at the time, but it really shows that they're going all in on the new lighting engine, which, when it becomes more obvious, I'm going to get into. But so far, the graphics look very good. It looks like they're going for a more realistic approach to an extent. I'll cover the graphics a bit more later, but for now, it looks good. The storybook intro is interesting. It was dropped in Sticker Star, but really I felt that it had little purpose after the Thousand Year Door, because Super Paper Mario didn't really need that much context. It was explained in the game. But nevertheless, it's an interesting relic of a bygone era, and even though, as I'll cover in my later video, I don't think it's necessary to introduce Paper Marios this way anymore, it is a nice detail, and I'm glad they kept it in this version. Now notice here something interesting. The trees and the house look very much like cardboard structures. This is very reminiscent of the Origami King. Yet it somehow doesn't look like it, and I thought about it for a while, and it's because of the light and sheen that's on absolutely everything here. Yeah, there's some shading, as you can see to the left, but everything that's on the ground is so bright and shiny that it gives it an unnatural air. I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it, because it makes the world look somewhat more unnatural than it already did, but the graphics look great. I loved the Origami King's aesthetic, and I love to see the return of the cardboard. And so when I was first watching, I thought to myself, oh, well, they're bringing back the style from the Origami King. That's the future style Paper Mario. Not really, as we'll see later. They'd made some changes to it. And here you'll notice the most jarring aspect. Parakarry descends from in the intro, just as he did in the original Thousand Year Door. But crucially, his design has not changed. It's just been, the resolution has just been enhanced. So, Flat Parakarry, who's just a flat character, looks incredibly jarring against the excessively bright, folded cardboard tree, which, again, I really liked, and I also liked the original game style, but because Parakarry is left in his native form, his color palette feels a lot more washed out, but less defined, like he doesn't really belong in the world as much. It's a strange clash, but we'll talk about the characters more in the next frame. Yeah, you can see Luigi here. Let's talk about this house first. So, I really like how it took inspiration from the Origami King, but just went further with it. We've got chairs that look like and tables that look like cut bits of cardboard. This stove looks like someone could have easily made it. It looks very much true to the paperized aesthetic of modern Paper Mario, rather than the flat nature of classic Paper Mario. And I like that. Like I said, I like the Origami King's aesthetic more than I do the original game's aesthetic. But there's a bit of a strange use of characters models in this game, where Luigi and Mario later, as you can see, are done back with the black outlines as they were in the first 4 games, and not the white outlines anymore, and they look far more like just flat characters and not actual paper. If I zoom in, if I look really closely, they look like they could almost be cardboard now, which is strange. It's strange that they went all in with the Origami King aesthetic, but went back a step with characters, or maybe took a step to the side. I'm not really sure what exactly the characters look like. Doesn't really get a perfect view of their side so that we could see what they really look like, but it's confusing, even if it does look really good, and I do really like both aesthetics. This is a great shot. It does nothing really to point out here, but the 3D diorama aesthetic over Rogueport wasn't really in the original, and the fact that but here it looks more like an actual town seen from far away rather than just an image, which is nice. The 3D convex nature is really nice to look at, and it looks like almost a little diorama, which the Paper Mario series is implied to somewhat be a diorama of some sort, and for that reason, I just like this new aesthetic. I think that the Thousand Year Door was the perfect way to showcase the Switch's power over remastering a classic beloved GameCube title. But they did something interesting with it, and we'll get to it in a second. This effect with the boat looked nice in the original, but with the newer style, the more realistic, rugged style of Rogueport that they're going, which curiously is not the same as the aesthetic in Mario and Luigi's house, which is a bit of a strange turn, but either way, with either that style or the original style, the flipping paper boat doesn't really make a lot of sense anymore, because it doesn't feel like something you can actually do, because it's just cinematic. It's not something you actually do with paper, whereas I feel like Origami King tried to do everything in the game you could theoretically do with actual paper, whereas that's a bit of a strange transition. I guess it looks to the corner as they outlined the save block in black, I guess, for people to find it, so it wouldn't blend into the background. The save blocks are purposefully rainbow, so they never blend into the background, but I guess it's a good idea, and later I think I know why they included it for this game specifically. Yeah, as you can see, more characters. The save block thing is repeated there. It's clearly black outline. Black outlines have gone back for all the characters, and it's almost a strange cardboard aesthetic. I can't really look around them, but it feels like instead of paper, they're cardboard this time. More of a cardboard Mario instead of a paper Mario. Also, I completely forgot to mention it earlier, my apologies, but if you look at the text box of Goombella over here, you'll see that it's the Origami King's text box, not mixed with the Thousand Year Door's text box. I say mixed because Thousand Year Door had the indent in the middle of the text box, so it felt like more like a natural speech bubble, while the Origami King had the layered text box, had the flat paper over the darker cardboard outside, which is definitely an interesting change. I didn't think they'd update the text boxes, but they did, and it looks nice. It's a nice blend of both styles, which is something that you'll hear me say a lot, because one thing this remake seems to be doing well is blend good things that the series has done in the past. But moving on. Okay, this is a perfect shot to highlight my only real criticism with the game. It looks really bright. And normally that's not a problem, right? Like, games are bright, they're supposed to be fun, they're supposed to be lively. It's never a problem to say, oh, the game is way too bright. But look at the save block. Now do you start to get my point? If they hadn't outlined this in black and made the save block much darker than it normally is, you wouldn't have been able to see it as easy because it just blended into the blinding light everywhere. And you say, oh, this is no problem. It's chapter 1. It's meant to be bright and fun and lively. And look, they're the cardboard towns that you like. It looks really nice. And I would say, yeah, it looks really nice. And I do love the returning town aesthetic from the Origami King of the paper stairs and the paper everything, whereas it didn't really look like that in the original. So I am really glad that they included all of that. It looks amazing. But there is a problem, a consequence that I believe this lighting engine could have on the game that I'll bring up when it's relevant. Strangely, this is one of the moments that, probably the first moment in the trailer, I believe, that the screen suddenly turns dark. And in this one, it actually does look dark, even though it's not necessarily supposed to be that dark, which is interesting, and it comes back to something I'll say later about Chapter 2 when it comes up in the trailer, about how the lighting engine interacts with things. Yeah, this is it. So, I'll let it play a little bit. You've got the Shadow Sirens, of course. Nice designs. But when it gets later into Chapter 2, like this, for example, that's... Like, take a look at this. Does this not seem a little bit too ambiently bright for you? It just seems a little bit too colorful and not as menacing as the original, which has me somewhat worried for the Shadow Queen's Palace, because I'm afraid that it's just not going to look scary as it did in the original, which is, my only major fear for this game. I have, everything else I'm almost 100% sure is going to go fine. I'm just somewhat worried about how this lighting is going to interact with things. Hooktail's Castle, nice grandiose shot. I'm glad that the series is using some of Origami King's wide, grandiose panning shots to get a good sense of things, and it looks great. Like, you can see the entire scenery behind Hooktail's Castle. It's certainly great visuals, and the combining of both the old and the new is done excellently. So, great cinematography. But do you see what I mean about the lighting there? Like, does this not look unnaturally colorful to you? Like, I like the shiny aesthetic and all. Glitzville is not exactly a somber place, but I don't know. It just feels very odd, especially when, like, even though Origami King certainly had its bright moments, it never felt as shiny as this game. Which, again, I'll get to when they have the better shot of Chapter 2. Again, you see this, right? The clouds are so bright. They remind me actually of Wind Waker HD. And speaking of Wind Waker HD, Thousand Year Door and Wind Waker, both original GameCube games that used a simple aesthetic to look better than the hardware they were built for. They both had very simple character designs, were both highly beloved by their family, by the fandom. Both had a highly, some would say, cutesy art style, and in the end, they both got HD remakes that, if one major thing, massively improved their lighting engine. Whereas Link's Awakening, not Link's Awakening, I don't even know what I'm saying. Wind Waker, well, Wind Waker did have a really nice lighting. It didn't necessarily need the dark aspects, because it wasn't a dark game. It's not like Twilight Princess. But in this game, I feel like there are some moments that necessitate a dark filter, and in some moments, as you've seen in Professor Frankley's study, there are, but there just aren't in some other places, and I'll show you what I mean. Like here, this is a wide shot of Chapter 2, the Great Bogly Tree. This is one of the darkest places in the game, and yet it just kind of looks like, I don't know, it looks weirdly bright. Like, it's oddly well-defined. It looks like it's the afternoon and not like a night on a richly designed, underground in a richly designed tree. It's just strange because this moment in the original game made me feel somber, I'd say. It had a somber feel to it. But this one doesn't really have that, and that's why I'm worried about Chapter 8, because Chapter 8 heavily relies on its dark tone, and I know from the Frankley study that they are capable of making this engine look dark. It's just I don't know if they're going to necessarily apply it everywhere. Like, look at that. Look at that transition. You go from one of the darker places in the game that just looks like a normal place because of how not dark it is at all. And it's supposed to be one of the dark places in the game. And then it transitions to a not dark place. And it's so bright. The lighting here is crazy. And that could be a good thing. Like I said, Chapter 1 is a lively place. But it feels like they took a lot of the normal-looking places and said, let's make this really bright and really shiny, and then they took a lot of the dark places and they're like, let's just make this like you're going through a normal location. I have no idea what Chapter 4 is going to look like. If it just looks like it's mid-afternoon in, a lot of the intimidation with Dupless will be lost. Oh, by the way, at the end, not now, there will be some spoilers as I give my final thoughts, so when I'm done with the video, if you haven't played either the Thousand Year Door or the Origami King, you might want to click off. Alright, well, okay, I'll continue. Like, look at that. Go back. I didn't highlight it perfectly, but the way Koops' shell just hit the box, it perfectly crumpled down. It folded in on itself almost like an accordion. That was such a neat effect. I like the things that they didn't have to include. Like, the game would be perfectly fine if that specific effect on the question mark box wasn't there, but just the fact that it is automatically makes the game so much better. The attention to detail is great. But curiously, you'll notice how this castle doesn't look very papery. It just sort of looks like it did in the original. But that block looks like it's made out of cardboard, almost to a fault. And that's strange. It feels like the mixing of the aesthetics is good, but some of the ways it's actually implemented are somewhat strange. So, moving on. Like, look at how bright this is. Like, that, again, it's not a complaint, but it's so bright, especially compared to the somewhat somberness of Hooktail Castle, which doesn't even look somber, it just looks pretty normal. But then look at, like, Rogueport in comparison. Again, a thieving town, a town that's for thieves. and it's so bright. And the brightness is nice. I like the brightness. Honestly, I really do. But it's just strange that how similar it is to why do I keep saying Link's Awakening? I guess because that also had a shined up remake, but how similar it is to the Wind Waker remake, as it was a remake of a GameCube original that has not necessarily graphics that are that much improved, although they are improved, but a lighting engine is the main emphasis on it. And again, I'm not sure to what effect it will be used, but so far, it's looking alright, even if I wish the darker scenes were a little bit more dark. Like, this looks a lot brighter than it did originally. And this is also very modern Paper Mario inspired, the way the trees stand up and fold out as if they're actual paper. It's clearly taking lots of inspiration from the modern games, but then other things in the game, like the grass, looked like it could be straight out of like the Thousand Year Door, the original one. So it seems like they're trying to give everyone a bit of what they want, and well, it seems they're succeeding at it. I think they're doing a pretty good job, but I just wanted to point it out how the reference of both the old and newer additions to the series. The regular action commands still seem to be the same, but with some of the partners, it appears their prompts are different. I'll show you what I mean. Super Guard, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't believe that was a thing in the original Thousand Year Door. Again, if it was, I never 100%ed that game. If that was a thing you could do, leave a comment. Please let me know. But I think that's a new thing. I'm pretty sure that is a new thing. But, yeah, onto, like, the main change of the battle system. Yeah, this is it. Flurry's attack. Lip Lock, I believe it's called. In the original one, I believe the star would light up and you pressed A whenever it did, which seems to be what this is. But this one has an additional marker, which makes me think it's more of a target-reaching game, which the fact that they're improving, or not necessarily improving, but like altering some of the special attacks is an interesting idea. It really goes to show that they sat down, they reconsidered every aspect of this game, and they thought, what could use improvement? And this is the part where I'm going to talk about my stance on remakes as a whole. A lot of people, when they want a remake, they want a better looking, better sounding, to an extent, better playing version of the original thing they liked. You like the original, so clearly you'll like the same game, but with enhanced features. I do not feel this way. I think that if you're going to design a remake of a game, if you're going to have customers pay extra money to buy the same game again, it should be a different experience in and of itself. Which I think that changing how the attacks work, in a good way, is a great idea, because it gives special value to this game and only this game. Only this game will have the unique merger of both aesthetics that different fans like, both new and old fans. And I think that this is a great remake philosophy, and it will surely attract many customers, especially with the high that Paper Mario has been in recently, at least compared to Mario and Luigi. But I just think that that was a great decision, and it's surely going to benefit them in the long run. Now, here's an interesting aspect. This is character-wise. Obviously, this is another dark location, which feels like they're flip-flopping on whether they make a location dark or brighter than it should or shouldn't be. I honestly thought up to this point that they retconned Kammy Koopa, because Super Paper Mario didn't have the creative restrictions, which don't even make sense, because the creative restrictions just limit the creation of new characters in the Mario universe. but Cammy was an established character at that point, like Bowser or Mario. So shouldn't he have been? Shouldn't she have been in Sticker Star or Color Splash or the Origami King? Doesn't really make a lot of sense, and that's why I thought they just swapped her out with Kamek for continuity's sake, to try to build a more consistent narrative throughout the games. But now they brought her back, and I'm unsure what her full story is. So if there's anyone who'd like to explain to me why that is, again, you can leave a comment. I'd appreciate it. But apart from that, this unique text bubble, it's very sharp, defined, but still uses the Origami King aesthetic. I love it. I think it's very, well, I guess the best way to describe it would be poignant. It sticks out, especially in the somber background with just the dim blue candlelights illuminating. It really feels sharp. So, great design of the text box. And, of course, the Bowser and the other characters look great, but, I mean, I've already said that. This scene looks, the Bowser levels look especially great. A rainbow Bowser and the polish on all of these textures. I never set it up till now, but the shininess really reminds me of a modern-day Yoshi game, which is strange because I always feel like Yoshi has been an entirely different thing to Paper Mario, but it feels like they might even be taking some pages out of the Yoshi playbook, especially when you consider how shiny a lot of these textures are and just how polished it is, but like polished in like a toy-like way, not necessarily in a realistic-like way. But I mean, yeah. It's a great evolution. These sections look great, and I do wish they add more to them. I hope that there's more content because they're great distractions. Even the Peach sections. The Peach sections, I really hope there's more to do because those are really fun as well. Cheep Cheep Blimp, as you can see, the one that goes to Glitzville, not only now has all of the partners, but has been given a unique wireframe design to make it look like more like a real Zeppelin. Again, game would be perfectly fine if they didn't include that and just left it at like the smooth balloon that it was in the original. But they went through with it, and that's amazing. The fact that they would put so much detail through something so comparatively inconsequential. So that was a great addition. And Mario's party is obviously all in the airship, because why wouldn't they be? I mean, now that there's the graphical power to do it, it's just, like, why wouldn't you at that point? It's a great addition, and it sacrifices nothing. The clouds do look so bright and smooth, though. I really feel like that they were trying to go for the Link's... why do I keep saying Link's Awakening? They were trying to go for the Wind Waker HD route on this one. Still bright, but again, the reuse of the sharp text box. And for the world that looks pretty normal, at least besides some of its brightness comparatively speaking, the now 2D folded, I don't actually know what these are called, these blue striped things in the background. I don't know the official word for them. And this oddly concave question mark block kind of look out of place with the overly polished ground, but again, I feel like that was just trying to give everyone a little bit what they want, and the result comes out to be a little bit weird in the end, but I like it. I think that it's a good addition, and it complements the game. These pigs, though, like, when Dupless turns the people of Twilight Town into pigs, that guy before just looked like a normal character. The Twilighter just looked like Mario. But now the pig doesn't even look like a blend of art styles. He looks like he's just straight out of the Origami King, which kind of looks out of place, but since it's 3D and nothing else isn't as it was in the original, it's just fun to look at. Like, it's just actually fun. it's strange and out of place, but it's also nice. I really like this chapter, and I honestly hope that they add to it. I don't know if they'll be changing the story at all, but if they added some more of the mystery element to this chapter, I think that it would have worked even better than it did. Because I was kind of disappointed that by the time you leave the station, the mystery's already over, and then you just go to Poshly Heists, and it's not that fun. But I really hope they add to this, because this was a great chapter. Curiously, despite how bright Rockhawk looks, like seriously, the shine on this one is crazy, they changed the color of the crystal star. It's not bronze anymore, it's gold. I guess to go with the aesthetic, is there a reason for that? Are all the crystal stars palette swapped, or is it just this one? This one, in particular, looks more like cardboard, so I'm not sure, but either way, it's certainly a decision, but I don't know if it's one with impact or if it was just an artistic decision to complement the palette. Magnus von Grapple, looks great, but I want to draw your attention to the right, where not only is the save block outlined in black, as I said, but the heart block is outlined in blue. I don't know why all of these are outlined. Again, I think it might be because of the light, because they're hard to pick out when everything is not only bright, but really, really, really reflective. But I digress. The outlines don't matter that much. But Magnus von Grapple looks like a paper creation, a paper and cardboard creation that you could have made at home, which, again, looks amazing. I really like this cinematic, but look at the ground. Then look up. Look at the mech. They look nothing alike. It's strange. It's very strange. And, And before anyone says, no, it's not like excuse me, sorry. It's not like in the Origami King with the Legion of Stationery, because the Legion of Stationery were office tools that were brought to life. They were distinctly meant to contra. They weren't just normal things that just existed in the world. They were supposed to be out of place and like artificial creations. Whereas, like, look at Hooktail, for example. Hooktail wasn't meant to be out of place. Hooktail just lives in this castle, but looks so much more like a paper creation than the castle itself. Especially like these streamer ends on its tail. Again, it's just strange to look at. But I do like the cardboard. I really do like it. And it's, as someone who loves the Origami King, of course, the folded, almost origami nature of this design appeals to me, but it just looks strange in comparison to everything else. And they changed the title. Why did they change the title? I mean, they didn't change the title, but they changed the title logo. I don't know why they did that. I think the original one looked better, and they could have still done it in, like, this sort of paperized way, but the font is just not as distinctive. So, yeah, I don't really like this one that much. And that's just the tech scene. We already know about tech. So, final thoughts. If any of you have not played the 1,000-Year Door or the Origami King and care particularly about spoilers about my thoughts about the original, then I suggest you click off now. If not, well, you're already stayed this far. I would like for you to stay just a little bit longer. So, I really like the 1,000-Year Door. It still is my second favorite Paper Mario game, and a great game at that. If I were to list two of its flaws, there's a bit of a plot hole at the beginning. Mario sets off on a treasure hunt for the crystal stars, even though he's just been made aware that Peach has been kidnapped, has no idea where she is, but he decides it's a great idea to go on a random fetch quest to gather a mysterious item to get a treasure, even though that only coincidentally ends up being the same people, ends up having him follow the same people who kidnapped Peach. Whereas in any other scenario where the X-Nauts kidnapped anyone else, then it becomes useless. Like, Mario's entire adventure doesn't even succeed in saving Peach. Like, if Bowser, it's strange that Mario doesn't even consider that Bowser could have done it this time. It just never even crosses his mind, even though this is the thing that Bowser does, and naturally, his first instinct in Super Paper Mario was, oh, Peach is gone, Bowser did it. My other problem with it, not gameplay-wise would just be the backtracking in Chapter 4, as well as the beginning of Chapter 7, General White Quest, but the only other flaw I have for it is that all of the villains being redeemed at the end for no reason was really stupid and felt really forced. I have no idea why they did that. They didn't need to make Beldum or Dupless or the X-Nuts good in the end. They could have just said, oh, they ran away after and they were never seen again. That would have made more sense than after their boss died, then, oh, they're just now all good. Like, all of them, without any provocation or convincing. The Shadow Queen's dead, so all of them are good. Even though the X-Nuts' motivation wasn't even tied to the Shadow Queen. They were just tied to the conquest of the world. They didn't really care whether the Shadow Queen gave it to them or not. They just wanted the world. So, that's a bit confusing. But apart from that, it's an amazing game. Great story, great, characters, great gameplay, great battle system. It's all great. Not as good as the Origami King, in my personal opinion, but still a great game nonetheless. And I'm very excited to play this one, along for knowing thinking about what Paper Mario 7 is going to be like. Because let's be honest, this is the Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom strategy. Release a bunch of stuff in between, like in Zelda's case, it was Skyward Sword HD, Age of Calamity, a Link's Awakening remake. They released a bunch of remakes in the space between them to give people Zelda content appetizers while they waited for the main course. I think this is the same thing. The reason they have Mario & Rabbids Sparks of Hope, the reason that they have the Thousand Year Door remake, the reason they have the Mario RPG remake, which if you're asking, I'm not doing a video on the trailer because I've never played the original, and frankly, I don't really plan to play the remake. But this it definitely feels like they're trying to starve off time to release a new Paper Mario game. In my opinion, sometime in the early Switch 2's life. You know, since Paper Mario, the Origami King came out in 2020, feels like I predict that, Paper Mario 7 could easily come out in, 2025. But with all that said, I think that's going to be it for this video. If you liked my breakdown and are excited for my future analysis videos that are longer, have a script, and are more in-depth, then please consider liking and subscribing. The support really helps my channel, and I'm trying to get it moving forward. If you have anything of note you would like to say, anything that I got wrong, or anything that you have, or any opinion that you might want to express, please leave a comment. I'll try to read them. And, is that it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.